Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacy and Phil Thompson.
It's another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacy.
And my name is Phil Thompson. Thanks for joining us today. We come to you usually every week with this podcast. We're a tech company called JSL Solutions, and we love to help churches and ministries use technology. And we talk about technology, but we also talk about other things like, things helping volunteers out, different challenges that pastors face, ministry leaders face, because Steve and I have both been involved in ministry for since the dark ages, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We have a lot of experience, and so we want to pass that on and help people. So thanks for spending some time with us again.
So what are we talking about today?
You always seem impatient when you ask me that. Yeah. I go on, and then you say, look, just get to it. What are we going to talk about today? So in answer to your question, Steve, we're going to talk about how to use movie clips for your sermon illustrations. And this would apply, obviously, not only to pastors or associates, but also even volunteers that work maybe with the audio and video department. Mm-hmm. In case maybe this is not something you're familiar with, or you've probably heard about people using it, and maybe you've even done some of it yourself, but we've got some ideas here that might help you and, help maybe streamline the situation a little bit. I don't know.
Right. So they've been doing it at my church for a while. I guess they do it at your church. So I consider it somewhat commonplace, but I've not, as I dropped in on other churches that are streaming, I don't remember seeing anyone cutting to a video clip or anything. So it may be not as common as I was thinking.
Yeah, it just depends. I think it's within a different segment of churches. But let's just even tackle the question. I mean, why should we even use video clips? Why should we even consider that?
Right. So
why?
So why?
I do this
You're
thing.
going to answer that question. I think one of the key things, because you're the pastor that speaks, and I'm just the deacon that's setting up chairs and stuff. So
well, now come on.
But I think one of the reasons is it really helps. It's something that someone can relate to, and a lot of the movies scenes will have some illustrations that will really emphasize a point that you're trying to make.
Well, and let's even go back a little further. When Jesus was teaching and talking with not only his disciples but also with people in the public, did he or did he not use illustrations?
He did use illustrations.
He used illustrations. He used stories.
Did he use video?
Well, we don't have that recorded, but maybe he did. No. But he used, and you see this not only with
the means of the day for putting in an illustration.
Parables.
Yes.
And then if you go back even to the Old Testament, the prophets did the same thing. They used illustrations, and they even acted out certain things in front of people as an analogy for things. And so the idea of using illustrations, using stories to convey a truth has been going on for ages and ages. And so all we're talking about here is bringing things up to modern day technology, or whatever you want to call it. Millions and millions of Americans, and people all over the world for that matter, attend movies. They go to movies. They watch movies. And now, of course...
And they've seen movies. And so, this helps. They'll see a clip that's from a movie they've seen, and it just kind of helps support and reinforce the message.
And, Netflix is out there now, so now you don't even have to go to a movie theater. You can see your favorite movies and things on TV. So the idea of why should you use clips... we're basically just answering that because it can convey a message. It can help you get your point across.
Right. And for those that haven't sat through a service where they use video clips, it's not a 10-minute clip or not even a 5-minute clip usually.
Yeah, it should not be. And we're going to talk about maybe two different points here in this podcast. One is maybe you want to use a video clip or two perhaps in your message, or if you want to do something that has become pretty popular with some churches called at the movies, And that is what most churches that are kind of doing this, they do it maybe once a year or twice a year, and the whole message is made up of a series of different clips. And so
from a single movie.
From a single movie, usually
yes,
from
yes.
a single movie. I mean, I have heard of some churches taking various clips from different movies, and they've designed it that way to whatever the deal is. But usually it's from, when you hear the term, let's go to this church and watch at the movies. Life Church made it really popular, although there were churches doing it before Life Church. StreamingChurch.tv, I think, is their domain. They're
So the format for At the Movies is it's a lot of clips, right? It's typically...
It could be 6 clips. I mean, it could be 4 or 5 clips. It could be 6 or 7 clips. And again, as you just said earlier here a moment ago, when you're doing movie clips, whatever it is you're doing, you really shouldn't make them very long. They should be just, I personally feel like a couple minutes, maybe 3 if it's a great clip that really conveys what the point you're trying to get across in your message. And I actually help edit. I have a little part-time gig at my church, and one of the things I do is we do this at the movies twice a year. We do it around Christmas, but we also do it summertime. We're doing it in a couple weeks here. And you just have to be real careful of time. And some of the people listening to this podcast, time is not a big deal for you. Your services go on for a couple hours, good for you. But a lot of the churches that we work with and stuff, their services start at a certain time. They end
right. So if you have 4 or 5 2-3 minute clips, then that's 20 minutes of your message or so. And so you just need to.
Yeah. So anyhow, so the difference, again, I just want to distinguish here, because I would talk about 2 different things here within this podcast. One is this information we're going to share is good if you just want to use a clip in your message, maybe one clip or maybe 2, whereas At the Movies is multiple clips, and we can get into that. So anyhow, before we get into the how-to, one thing we do need to cover, and that is the legality of what you're doing here. Because there are such a thing called laws, copyright things. In fact, if you've ever brought a DVD home or watched something, you'll see that FBI logo, and you can't copy or reproduce this. So how does that work if you're trying to do something like in a church?
I don't know. How does that work? So the church deals with other forms of media that is licensed and copyrighted.
Yeah.
Worship music is the typical route.
Music.
So you have to have a license to be able to perform certain worship songs.
You really should. You really, really should. So there's a deal out there called Church Video License, CVLI. And all you have to do is Google it. CVLI.
Is this available through CCLI?
Yes, I believe it's a branch through
and
that.
CCLI is?
Well, that's for your printed material.
And worship, right?
And worship material.
And what does that stand for?
CCLI, copyright. I don't know. I didn't look that. We've used it for years. I can't remember, but CCLI.
But they're the body that administers the licenses for this. You
correct.
Get your CCLI license through CCLI and pay them a fee and that sort of thing. Okay, so the CVLI is also available through CCLI.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the cost, the next question I'm sure somebody's going to have is, what's this going to cost? Well, it all depends on the size of your church. So you go to their website and you fill out the deal of how large your church is, and they charge you according to your size. And so
the square foot, or is that
number of people? Number of people
on a weekend.
You've been hanging around me too long. You're getting whatever you're getting. You've got some kind of a disease you got from me. Sarcasm, but yeah, the CVLI is what you want to have if you're going to show clips, and the CCLI is something you should have if you're doing music and you're showing words up on the screen or whatever.
Right.
And again, there's even another one that I can't remember offhand, because I know at our church we used it, actually your church, when I was working for your church, we used it for some other things. But anyhow, let's move on here. So you want to get this CVLI license, and then you want to determine if the movie is covered under the CVL license, and you can find that out.
So this CVLI license, I assume, is like an annual license that I get. Yeah. And I've got this great clip, and I know at our church there's a particular movie that I must have struck a chord with our pastor because he's been using it for years.
What About Bob?
Yes, What About Bob?
Yeah.
There's just so much.
We've used it too. Yeah.
So much spiritual illustrations in What About Bob, which is now really getting dated.
It's old, yeah. But you're right about that. So you want to make sure that whatever clip you're going to use falls within the list that they will license. If it doesn't, there's another place you can go, and that would be the MPLC. MPLC.org is the website, and that's the Motion Picture License
Corporation.
Something or other. And I don't ask me how much. I don't know. I don't know what it costs to get that. We haven't got that far. So, but it's important to have a license, either the CVLI or the MPLC, because you could get fined. You could get into trouble. Have I heard of anybody yet that has? I have not. But, if you're a really, really large church and you get to, maybe draw a lot of attention and somebody decides they want to stir something up.
Right. They'll say, hey, these guys are abusing copyrights.
Right. So it's important to have
Now,
this.
is there, I know in the music world, it's my understanding that if you use a certain amount of seconds or less of a song, you can use it.
You can use it, and you see this on TV all the time. Even big shows like The Tonight Show or some of these network television shows, a lot of times they will only use a few seconds of the clip for whatever reason, because they don't want to.
So this applies to music. The clip, the second, does it apply to music or to videos as well?
I think it might, but I don't know. I know it does for music.
Oh, okay.
I know it, but I'm not sure about video clips. But even YouTube. Here's another deal. YouTube, you need to have. You really should have a license, either CVLI, cover your YouTube clips, and you really should. I'm just saying this. I mean, some people don't care and they just run it and whatever, but I'm just giving you the facts here as much as I know. And if there's other people listening to this podcast, by all means, let us know your thoughts on this. We'd love to hear back from you. So anyhow, licensing, you really need to make an effort to cover that, if at all possible. So.
All right. How I don't know, we're getting into and you would be able to speak to this, but how to find the right clip for the right illustration point? Is that just something you Google or something that you just got to know, or you're making a certain point and you go, I remember that scene from when Harry met Sally.
That's usually the way at my church we kind of operate. I mean, usually it's all by memories. Like, hey, you know what? I remember there was a good illustration from some movie I saw with my wife, last year, and I want to use this for my message. And so it's just a matter of. I mean, you can go to.
Is there a resource?
You can go to ScreenView. ScreenView is what it's called. And I should have looked this up before the podcast, but you can go to ScreenView, ScreenVue.com, and they actually have a bunch of clips that you can either use or at least ideas that you can use.
You can search you can put in keywords or
you could put in keywords, but if you want like a quick, if you want a quick illustration and you want to use a video clip, ScreenView. I think ScreenVue.com, VUE at the end. You could look there, and they could tell you, here are some movies that would present, bringing hope to people,
right,
or dealing with this. And you could look on there, and you could either get the idea for the clip and then go out and get the DVD somewhere. Which, by the way, that's even getting harder and harder to do. Now you got to go to Redbox to rent a DVD, or buy it from Amazon. To get it.
Yeah.
You can't go to Blockbuster anymore.
No.
They're not around. So you can get some ideas that way, or you go by memory, or you could search YouTube. You could search YouTube and find some stuff. And we'll get into the YouTube thing here in a moment, because there is a way to deal with that as far as how to actually get the file.
All right.
But, you definitely want to give it some thought. And then this is just for a random clip or two. If you're talking about at the movies, where you actually want to run 5 or 6 clips from a specific movie, that one you definitely are going to have to sit there and think, okay, what's the main point of this movie, and can I use this main point for an illustration for a message.
Right.
I'm terrible at this because I don't watch a lot of movies. I really don't. And so when at my church, I work part-time at my church, and whenever they want me to do a Sunday at the movies, it's like pulling teeth, because I got to sit there and I ask my wife and I ask other people, well, what's a good movie? What should I do? And somebody will say it, and then I'll watch the movie, and then I'll sit there and go, well, I don't know what to do, and I literally have to. It's a pain. It's easier for me to write a sermon from scratch than it is to do at the movies. That's just me.
Yeah.
But other people, that's not an issue. But yeah, you can get points, and then it can be kind of time consuming, because then you got to go through these clips and decide, okay, what should I use, and then what time factor should I use?
I can see where at the movies be a little more challenging.
It's more challenging.
But if you've got a key point that you want to make, and you're just say, oh, is there a video out there anywhere that would support it? That's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. So, So I mean, again, if you're a big movie buff, which many pastors are, many people are in leadership, good for you. You probably have a movie in mind, and then you could watch the movie, take notes as you watch it, and then go through the process, which we're going to describe here in a moment.
Right. So I've done my research. I found my movie. I got my CVLI.
Right.
And this movie's on that list, and I go to Amazon and I order the DVD, and
you get the DVD in a couple
days. It shows up in the mail, and then what happens?
Yeah. So
you queue it up on the DVD player up the back of the auditorium, or
no, you should not do that. I mean, I'm sure there's people that try to do that, but it's very awkward, very clumsy, and things go wrong. So the first thing I would encourage you to do, whether you're going to use multiple clips in one service for at the movies kind of a deal, or just one clip, whatever it is you need to have presentation software to do this smoothly. So what I mean by presentation software, and most churches have this, is like something like ProPresenter or Media Shout. You could even probably use PowerPoint for this as well. So most churches, will have something that they put on their computer software with they project on screens
that they use for the lyrics or the teaching notes or
So my advice would be to put this in your software, in your presentation software. My church has ProPresenter, so you could put these clips in there. So that would be the first thing you really need to make sure you do. And by the way, I mentioned ProPresenter. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but ProPresenter actually apparently has an option. I've never used it, but apparently has an option to rip a DVD. And that's what we need to get into first, is you have the DVD, as you just said. It came from Amazon or you rented it at Redbox. You've got it. So the first thing you need to do, at least what I have done, and people can correct me out there, but you need to rip it. And rip it meaning you need to take the content from that DVD and create a file on your computer, so you can start editing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an MP4 file is probably ideally the best file. I guess you could use a .mov or whatever, but you need to rip it. So the next question comes down to, well, how do we do that? What do I do to rip it? Do I already have that capability? And chances are you probably don't, unless you have ProPresenter. Apparently ProPresenter 5 or 6 has that option, but you need to use something else with that as well, which we'll get to. So you need to find something that will do that, software that can do that. Handbrake is one of your favorite pieces of software, which is open source, which is a video editor, which we recommend to people.
Yeah, well, it's not a video editor, but it's a video encoder.
But you can edit video with it.
No, you really can't.
You can't edit any video with Handbrake?
No, it's not where you would go and say, I want to take, from minute 43 to 45.
Okay, so you can't trim it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's more of it reformats and re-encodes videos. Yeah, and it is open source. And this whole area we're getting into, you and I have a different opinion. This is getting into back alley software stuff. There's a lot of back alleys. Dark alley, very trench coats people selling software to rip DVDs, because you can get into a lot of trouble.
Well, Handbrake's
one of the
open source
the good
ones.
Boys in that dark alley. He's got a light. He's out on the corner out of the alley.
But here's the deal with Handbrake is you just can't rip it. You have to have a plug-in to rip it legitimately, or to actually get it to work.
Yeah, we were talking about this because we believe that the DVDs are designed to not be ripped.
Right.
So they have some copy protection built into them. So you've got to defeat that copy protection.
Right. So Handbrake has somebody put together a plug-in that you can install in Handbrake. I tried this one time and failed miserably. Handbrake will rip it, and you'll get the file, but it's garbled. And so I've looked it up. Oh, yeah, I need this kind of a plug-in, and it wasn't an easy plug-in. Maybe it would have been easier for you.
You had to go to a back alley to get it.
Well, you got to go in the back door of your computer and your programs and drop some code in. And I did all that. It still came out garbled. There may be people listening to this and tell you, no, this is the way to do it. So I'm just telling you what I had. So I end up getting something from your church called a Marisoft DVD ripper, which was Tony from your church recommended it years ago, a Marisoft DVD ripper. Now, there's lots of DVD rippers out there online, and you just alluded to it. It's some dark thing that, they sell other stuff.
Chances of you'll get something you didn't want when you downloaded the thing for free are very high.
Malware, whatever, is possible. With all I can tell you, and again, you think I'm totally wrong on this, but when I downloaded a Marisoft DVD, I, to my knowledge, didn't have any viruses or malware or STDs or whatever.
They never let you know when they install them.
Well, that could be the case. I mean, I have had situations where something fishy came up and I knew it, but I didn't have the issue with the Marisoft. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have it. If you're listening to me and you do it, I don't know.
Send your email to
support. So anyhow, but you need to get something. If you want to do a clip, you've got to have, from a DVD, you've got to have something that rips the DVD. So Google it, look at it. Steve is real big on Handbrake. Maybe he can get it to work for you. I couldn't get it to work. So Amerisoft was what I use, but if you just Google it, there's top 5 or 6 out there, and whatever. So let's say now, since we're running out of time here because we're arguing about how dark and dingy this is, let's say you have successfully ripped the DVD and you have a file on your computer. It's .mp4 or .mov or whatever.
Right.
Now you've got to edit it. You've got to come down with a clip out of an hour, 55-minute movie or whatever.
Right.
So you've got to have some kind of software to do that. So again, this is kind of the poor man's perspective on this. For me, I happen to use Windows, which is another area Steve gets very tripped up on. But Windows has what's called Movie Maker, although I think they quit producing it or something, but I have Movie Maker, so I drop the file in Movie Maker, and I can edit clips on Movie Maker. Your buddy at Mac, your buddy Steve Jobs, has iMovie. iMovie's another thing you could use. There's Adobe's got
Premiere.
You could use that. There's other video editing programs out there.
Right.
Lots of them out there. So I use Movie Maker because I've done it for years. It was cheap and it worked. So for me, that was okay. But for you, it's something else. All right. So that's what you would do. So there you begin to edit the clips. You can easily find out where you want to start it if you have an idea, where to end it, tells you how much time it is. You can export it again to a separate file. And so the idea here is that you would make multiple files, MP4 files, from your one big file,
right?
And then you would put that in ProPresenter or some other church presentation software, and you have it queued up. So then when you're ready to give your illustration, somebody clicks play, and it's there,
right?
And then it ends,
and it's in the right spot.
It's in the right spot. Starts the right spot, ends the right spot. Now, if you're using something from YouTube, again, we mentioned earlier about licensing things. There's also ability to grab a YouTube clip if it's legal. If you've determined it's legal to do so, you can take a YouTube clip and you can take the URL and you can get software that converts that URL to a file. Again, an MP4 file or some other file. I use Any Video Converter. Any Video Converter is the name of the software I have used to make MP4 files. and it works pretty well, and you can even do some editing on that. Okay, and again, Steve is rolling his eyes because
no, I was going.
If you listen to him,
I'm going to the Who's On First thing. You're using what? You're using any video converter. Which video converter are you using?
Well, that's the name of it. Any video converter.
Well, which one is it?
That's a good one. Yeah, but there are other ones like that out there that do have malware. And you really have to be careful about that.
They probably don't advertise that, though, either.
Yeah. But, again, if you listen to Steve, all my computers are hopelessly infected with malware, and we're all going to die. But so anyhow, YouTube, you can take clips off of YouTube, and you can make them files, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And then you can make files there. And you can actually buy whole movies off YouTube, but I don't know. I can't speak with any kind of authority on if you buy the whole movie from YouTube, if you were able to take that and convert it into a file. They might not let you, because there are certain videos on YouTube that are definitely copyright protected, and you can't do what I just described. You can use anytime. It's called Any Video Converter. Again, that's the name. And but sometimes it won't work with certain like music videos because it's protected. So I don't know. Does that make any sense? And then you can load it all in your presentation software, and life is good.
So we've equipped everyone to figure out how to add video illustrations to their sermons.
Well, this is the very basic, and I think that I think they're good illustrations. Hopefully you get the proper licensing, and the FBI won't be beating down your door and, hauling you away to jail.
Right.
So,
And in your talk, you're typically setting up the point and then setting up the video as well.
Right. So instead of using
Opie deal with Andy and Barney Fife in this next scene talking about honesty. Yeah.
Exactly. And so normally, you might, use a scripture to kind of back up your point, or take something from a scripture and make a point out of it. So instead of doing that, you would take a movie clip or add it to your scripture, so to speak.
Right.
So again, it's a story. It's like Jesus and all the prophets. Story. You're telling a story to illustrate a point.
Right.
And you're just doing it with a movie clip instead of drawing in the sand.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
so it's
all it
using
is.
Today's technology. It's a great idea, in my opinion.
I think it is, but you may have a different opinion out there. We would love to hear it. And I'd also love to hear if you have different ideas or different ways about going to use, how to format all this stuff, how to make these edits. We'd love to hear your feedback. All you have to do is send us an email, support@StreamingChurch.tv. All right. So we're done. Are you done?
We are done.
All right. Good.
Thanks.
All right. Awesome. So we'll have a guest next week, and we're looking forward to that. I won't say who that is right now, but I'll let that come up next week. We'll probably talk about the latest video cameras coming out. And again, we'd love to get your feedback. So his name across the table here is Steve Lacy. I'm Phil Thompson. We are out of time. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today on the Church Solutions Podcast. We will catch you again next time. Take care.